We're following the mysterious disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi amid reports from Reuters and the Washington Post that he may have been murdered. Here's what we do know. Khashoggi is one of the best-known journalists in Saudi Arabia. Since last year, he's also been a prominent critic, speaking out against what he called the repressive, unbearable leadership of the country. For the past year, he has been a contributing writer for the Washington Post. You can see some of the headlines from his columns on screen right now. On Tuesday, Khashoggi went to Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. He wanted to obtain paperwork that would allow him to divorce his wife in Saudi Arabia and get married to a woman in Turkey. He's not been seen since he entered the consulate on Tuesday. And there have been conflicting reports from Turkey and Saudi Arabia about whether he ever left the building. In the past 24 hours, unnamed Turkish officials have told the Washington Post and Reuters that he was killed in that consulate. Essentially, that Turkish officials have come to the conclusion that he was murdered. CNN has not been able to independently confirm those reports. This continues to be a mystery, a very disturbing mystery with international ramifications. So far, the U.S. government has said very little about this matter. Of course, the U.S.-Saudi relationship may come into focus as a result of this story, and there's a lot more to discuss. So let me bring in Karen Attiah, a global opinions editor at the Washington Post. She has been Jamal's editor for the past year. We had scheduled this interview a couple days ago after your colleague disappeared, and then came the news that he may be dead. How are you processing this?
I'm not. I think the best thing that we're trying to do is to try to sort of stay productive and keep his name out there. I think for a lot of Americans, this might be the first time that they've heard of Jamal Khashoggi. And I think it's to speak out about who he is, what his work meant to Saudi Arabia and to the region as a whole, and what it meant to us. And I think it's just really important to know that Khashoggi, Jamal, he didn't want to be known as a dissident. He didn't want to be this opposition figure. When he wrote his first piece for us in 2017, in September, he said, "This changed my life. I just want to be a journalist. I just want to write." And I think, you know, and going back to his words, it's almost, he was a former royal advisor. He was very close to the Saudi family. So
yeah, very well connected.
Exactly.
But early in 2017, if I can just tell our viewers, he was told, get off Twitter. Right. You're not allowed to tweet. You're not allowed to write critically of the government. And after 6 months, that's when he reached out to you all and decided to essentially go into exile and speak out against the government.
Right. You know, we saw the news. Exactly. We saw the news about the crackdowns. And, you know, we just decided, you know, why don't we just have him as a voice and get him to speak? That piece was his sort of coming out, so to speak, about what was happening to him and his friends. And in that piece, he said he had been quiet about the crackdowns for a while, but now he just was at the point to say something and to speak out. And he said that Saudi Arabia wasn't always like this, and that his country deserved better. And I just think throughout his work, what he had done, you could tell that he was speaking from a place of wanting to advise Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He didn't want to be known as this strident critic. Even in our editing process, there were times where he said, I really don't want to, you know, personally insult anybody. I just really, and he agreed with a lot of the reforms, especially women driving, the lifting of the ban on cinemas, but he just really felt like he had a duty to advise this young prince. You know?
Do you believe the Turkish officials who were concluding that he's been killed?
You know, we want to hope that he's still alive and with us and can come back to us and be safe. We had a lot of plans. We have a lot of plans to do so much more in Arabic. We're publishing a lot more in Arabic. You know, we're waiting just like everybody else. There's a lot of conflicting reports, a lot of rumors. We're still hoping for the best, but of course this news, if true, has us all completely devastated. This is an attack on us as well at the Washington Post.
One of the problems is it's been 18 hours since this first report that he'd been killed, right, and there's been no proof of life. Yeah. You would think there would be proof of life if he were alive and with us. What do you feel? Do you feel anger? Do you feel guilt? I'm sorry to ask, but I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an editor who knows a journalist is in harm's way?
I feel I feel like it has been inspiring. I think he knew the risks. We knew the risks. He is somebody who loves his country. I think I honestly feel he is one of the nicest people that I've ever met. I'm just honest about that. One of the nicest people. If the news is true, I hope it's not true. I am devastated. I've been in touch with his family.
Yeah.
I've been in touch with his fiance. I feel like this was a friend. We talked on WhatsApp. I saw him just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he had been living in Washington until recently, right?
in Virginia. And
Okay.
This is, I mean, I can't even imagine what his family is going through. I can say personally for me, this is one of the worst nights of my career, was days of my career. But, you know, we are committed to keeping, we're not going to let this go, and we're going to press, and we're going to keep his name out there, highlight his work, highlight who he is and was. Whoever may have wanted to do this to him recognize what we recognize in that he is an important voice, not only for Saudi Arabia, but for the region and for the entire world. And so if anything, all they've done is just upped his profile. And again, this is just the man who wanted to write. He just wanted to be a journalist. His eyes lit up when he walked in the newsroom and he said, I missed being in this. He had been silenced for so long, kicked out of newspapers, and working at the Post energized him. He's like, I have something to do. It keeps my mind off of the pressures. I need something to do. Give me something to do. So yeah.
And I love that you all have posted some of his columns on the Washington Post homepage right now. People can look on WashingtonPost.com and do what you're saying. Read his work, see his work, understand what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and just know to whoever has information, Saudis, Turks, that the entire world is watching. Jamal, again, was nice. He had many friends. We're all watching what's happening with this investigation, and we're not going to let this go.